There are now 80 Cybertrucks here. Whoops, actually make it 85 in total. So many. The ramp is actually going fairly well so far. And for Zaz's New Year's resolution to be less bullish is going to completely fail. I do not think many of us really expected the Cybertruck to start ramping up so quickly after the first deliveries. At this moment, the Cybertruck is exceeding expectations. And of course, we also see Tesla working on the deliveries as well. This is a test for, are you an optimist or a pessimist? If you first see this rounded edge, then you are an optimist, because maybe this could actually be acceptable in Europe, which would expand Tesla's Cybertruck market. But if you first saw this panel gap, then you are certainly a pessimist. Or just someone that sees obvious things quickly and easily. I am personally very strongly convinced that the Cybertruck is going to be Tesla's highest gross margin vehicle. Until the Roadster comes out, that vehicle is probably going to have a gross margin that's going to be even higher. You know, I'm wondering if this guy did something on purpose to be officially the first Cybertruck owner to be handed a ticket. Now, don't get me wrong, I certainly expect some issues and hurdles with the ramp, but unlike what the mainstream media is trying to tell you, I think the ramp is going fairly well. Reuters says that their sources say Tesla's Giga Texas factory is currently churning out 4680 battery cells at rate only sufficient to power about 24,000 Cybertrucks a year, or about a tenth of the required output. Pay attention to their language here, only sufficient. Spoken like a prosecutor, some really weird language. Instead, maybe they should try using this kind of language. 24,000 per year is a run rate of 461 per week, and Tesla is at best, maybe at 40 per day at very, very best, which would be still roughly, very roughly half of that number, which is much higher than where Tesla is now anyway. So no issues for Q4 or even for Q1. The article does not consider that 4680 batteries have been ramping meaningfully along its S-curve, and that Tesla is rapidly expanding production of 4680. I just found this website where you can actually rent a Cybertruck. You have to be willing to fly to San Francisco and pay $10,000 a month, or $750 per day. We now know how much money Tesla paid for the land where it is going to build the factory, the Megapack factory in China. It is $31 million for the 48-acre plot of land. If you have not listened to the conversation between Cathie Wood and Elon Musk that just happened 2 days ago or so, I highly suggest that you do. There were some interesting moments in there. For example, one news item that we learned from there was Elon Musk saying that Tesla China has seen a substantial increase in regulatory burden in the last 10 years. He says it's harder to get things done than it used to be. Now, I am wondering if this has anything to do with the Megapack factory. That's probably one reason why it got slightly delayed, not by a lot, but just by a little bit. And things seem to be really good in 2019 and 2020, so maybe Elon means not just this year, but maybe the last 2 years, which could also possibly explain why the next generation vehicle is not here yet and why it's late. That's what James thinks, but I'm not so sure Elon is referring to the next generation vehicle. I think he's mostly talking about the Megapack factory. Based on plans announced earlier this year, construction was already supposed to have started, and production should have started in Q2 of next year. But now production is supposed to start in Q4 of next year, so a bit of a delay. And there's a rumor that the groundbreaking of the Shanghai Megapack factory will be in February. Wall Street's Q4 consensus delivery estimate is 481,000, which implies 2023 deliveries of 1.8 million roughly. And Barclays analyst Dan Levy actually just increases delivery estimate up from 480,000 to now 490,000 based on October and November registrations and in advance of the expiration of subsidies in the US, France, and Germany. But Troy says 490,000 is not happening in Q4 and there is no way it can happen. That's a very strong statement. The question is whether 480,000 is possible. Gary Black is at 476,000, which implies 1.8 million deliveries for 2023. We hear so much talk about how Tesla is losing market share and how in Europe Tesla is not doing all that great this quarter. But if you look at the actual data, you will see that Tesla's market share has been growing for the last few years. And the other brands, the other biggest brands, they are all shrinking except for BMW. So things are nowhere near as bad as many Tesla bears would want you to believe. Tesla is participating in this automobile exhibition like it did participate in many exhibitions this year in China, and this time we see the refresh Model 3 over there as well. That will probably help a little bit with sales. For a moment, the holiday update was paused because there was a bit of an issue with it. It basically told you that your 12-volt battery is dead and therefore the use of your vehicle was limited. So not the giant battery, but the little small battery. And about 10,000 vehicles had the update. So there were a lot of confused Tesla owners who tried to get their vehicles serviced because of this issue. Tesla paused the update, created a new updated update, and now things are fine. After one of the updates, one of my friends had an issue with charging temporarily for a few days, and then it was fixed a few days after with another update. So every time when there's a major update, I don't rush to update my vehicle. I wait for a few days and then I update my vehicle. Unless I know I am getting the newest FSD version, then okay, yeah, I'm updating. There's a bit of news about Tesla's expansion in Germany, specifically about expanding Giga Berlin. We know that Tesla wants to build the next generation vehicle in Berlin as well. We hope that the approval for the first part of the application will be granted in the first quarter of next year, so that's pretty quick, relatively speaking, by German standards. Tesla wants to double the production in Giga Berlin from an aimed 500,000 cars per year to 1 million per year with the expansion. And also, the storage capacity of the production of battery cells is to increase in Giga Berlin from 50 to 100 gigawatt hours per year. Currently, they don't produce any batteries because the laws in the US incentivize all the production of batteries over here. But eventually, I think Tesla will produce some batteries in Giga Berlin as well. So Tesla is preparing right now so that later we don't have huge delays, which I like. I wanted to learn a bit more about the strike in Sweden. Did we have any strikes in Sweden? The employees did not want to join the union or to form a collective agreement. And turns out there is a case like that, and here's what happened. I am going to show you an archived piece of news from the union itself, basically. This is from 1999. The union writes in the book that it is inappropriate to threaten conflict when the industrial action is not anchored among the members. It is exactly what's happening right now with Tesla. In the worst case, it can lead to the members leaving the union, which also happened at Ferrita. The conflict at Ferrita began in the fall of 1997. The employees at the metal company in this particular town did not want to fight for a collective agreement. Despite this, IF Metal announced a blockade against the company. Sounds so familiar. It all ended with Metal's members at the company, 5 of the 19 employees were members, leaving the union. And Metal had to withdraw its notice without having received a collective agreement. It's almost like I just saw the future, the past, which really is the future that is coming here, but the union did not learn his lesson. Out of all of the people to bully, I think Elon Musk is probably the absolute worst person that you can pick to bully. I think Elon Musk has made it very clear that he's not afraid of losing money. He's not afraid of dying even. He made that very clear recently. And Elon Musk loves to have an enemy that he can fight with. I think that really inspires him and it really motivates him. If you haven't read the biography from Walter Isaacson about Elon Musk, I highly suggest that you read it, especially if you are heavily invested in Tesla stock. It will give you a much better... That's like the best thing to understand Tesla and Elon Musk that you can study. If you ever struggle with motivation, here's one major hack that you can use. You know how you hear people saying, oh, you should just focus on the positive things and do affirmations about how great you will be one day? Waste of time. To some degree, it can work for a little while, but I'm telling you, if you write down every single thing that someone said about you, how miserable you're going to be, how you're not able to work hard, how you are lazy, how you will never amount to anything ever in your life. Write down every single insult. The nastier, the better, and then read it. And then do something about it. To some degree, I think you need to be careful about this dark motivation, but it is some serious driving force for endless motivation. So to some degree, I actually really don't mind. And in some way, I think it's even useful for me to have critics, because if someone calls me lazy, I'm going to say, well, okay, watch me work 7 days per week. Sadly, though, no one calls me lazy anymore. Except me. Sometimes I call myself lazy. Which is actually quite motivating. Now, I think this sort of talk doesn't work for everyone. If you don't have much confidence, and if you tell yourself, "Oh, you're lazy, you're dumb, you're stupid, you will never amount to anything." If you don't have any confidence at all, then I think that works. That's not a positive for you. But for someone like me, I think that actually works really well, because it's actually, I don't think it's confidence that I have necessarily that helps with that. I think it's mostly being competitive. I am extremely competitive. My childhood, though, was fairly good, so I don't have any demons in my head like Elon has. At least Walter Isaacson says that Elon Musk has this demon mode. His father was extremely abusive. I had a great father. I had a great mother. I have great brothers. My family overall has been really great. Not to say that everything was perfect, because I pretty much had no money at all growing up. Like none. When I say I had no money growing up, I mean, I remember my mom once, my parents divorced when I was 4, and I lived with my mom. My mom, and I was maybe 7, I remember one day she worked at the restaurant as a waitress. She got extra tips that day, and she brought like free bananas. And I was like, oh, this is the best food I've ever tasted. Eating oranges, eating bananas every day was a huge luxury. I remember this month then I was able to eat bananas and oranges every single day. That was life-changing for me. Just to be clear, we never had any shortage of food, so I was never hungry. I would only be hungry if I was like, I'm not eating these potatoes or that rice or these black beans. I'm just saying, I couldn't have gone bananas by eating bananas every single day, because these were a bit too expensive for us at the time. But my mom, I think, did a great job. I love my mom so much. But I have that drive to never go back to that ever again, where I'm not able to buy bananas if I want to eat bananas every single day. But growing up, actually, the food was great, because my mom worked as a waitress and there would be leftover food left at the restaurant by the end of the day every single day. So we had lots of food. I'm just saying, certain delicacies like bananas, to me, I really like bananas and oranges and stuff like that. Were a big deal. Larry just tested Tesla's high fidelity 360 parking assist. He wanted to find out that the distance displayed here is accurate. And he actually got out of the car and he measured the distance, or someone else measured for him. And he said that the distance was actually accurate. One more thing that is really cool is that you can see the wheels turn. Larry says he has used several 360-degree systems in the past, and he can say that this was as good, if not better, in some respects. So that's good news. Oh, we have a bearish rumor about Tesla directly from a sales advisor from Tesla. A Tesla sales advisor told that she heard a rumor that the Model 3 Highland will only arrive in September 2024 in the US. Guess we don't have to wait too long to find out, says James. The Fremont will be shutting down for upgrades in January, which is what I hope happens. Yeah, I don't think it will be dragged to September 2024. If this actually does happen, I will be pretty disappointed. Tesla has the best talent and Tesla has the best team, but if this really does happen, this is a somewhat significant screw up, which I don't think is gonna happen. I expect, just like James does, that in January or maybe February, we will see some production maybe slow down or shut down, which will result in the Model 3 lines being upgraded, and then we should start seeing refresh Model 3s coming out of Fremont. James also says, we did an FSD test drive and it did not perform well. I am very confident in my FSD bearishness. Unfortunately, maybe V12 will change it, but in my opinion, the burden of proof is on Tesla. Yeah, over here in Canada, unless I'm driving through an area that I know fairly well, generally I will not be using FSD and expecting it to do very well. But if I know the road well and I use FSD there before, then I know exactly where I need to expect some sort of an issue, and then it doesn't bother me. OpenAI is in talks to raise new funding at a valuation of $100 billion. I have a question. If you have a nonprofit, but you can sell it for a lot of money, is it a nonprofit? Or if we don't let athletes bet on games they have the ability to influence, why do we allow Congress to invest in companies they regulate? For example, a major politician in the US, Nancy Pelosi, and her husband have purchased up to $5 million of NVIDIA call options. Seems widely inappropriate to me. This is some stunning news. GM has basically stopped selling this Blazer EV due to software-related issues, and customers who own a Blazer EV will be required to go to a dealership to update that software. The issue is not safety related, and there's nothing that needs to be worked on physically except for, plugging in your computer into the car and then doing the software updates. So I guess you still need to do something physically. And here is why GM allows this stupidity to continue and happen. In many states in the US, only dealerships can provide maintenance and repairs, but not the manufacturer. This creates a problem with over-the-air software updates for manufacturers with a dealership network like GM and Ford, because the dealerships want to get paid either way. This does sound a lot like Kodak. Well, it's making money and we can make money from this, and surely no one will innovate and beat us later. A company like Tesla will never be able to successfully sell a lot of vehicles and just send software updates via over the air and just have the cars update while the customer owner of the vehicle does nothing. But some people just never learn their lessons. Even when they see it happening in front of their eyes, they refuse to change. And I have actually adopted this to my life's philosophy as well. If I look back at the last few years and I cannot think of anything that was really silly for me to do, then it means I'm not making progress. There's always room for improvement. So one of my goals is a few years from now to look back to today and tell myself, that was silly, that was silly, that was silly. Because if it doesn't happen, it means I'm not improving anymore. And to me personally, one of the most painful moments I experience is when I learn something new and I realize, oh, I could have started doing this like 5 years ago. I wasted so much time. I have some regrets in my life, but I do regret the things that I haven't done more or haven't done sooner than the things that I have done and ended up regretting. But I think you can take it way too far. For example, this truck engine maker, Cummins, will pay a record $1.6 billion in penalties for installing emissions defeat devices on 630,000 Ram pickup truck engines, the largest ever penalty for a Clean Air Act violation, the Justice Department said on Friday. So yeah, I think you can have cases where if you do something, you will regret that thing more than not doing it. Oh, but if we don't do it, we will lose so much money on profits. Well, now you're gonna pay $1.6 billion in penalties. And your reputation is severely damaged.
This is the sound of a city that's gone mostly electric. Really, the only thing you hear anymore is people honking their horns. And everybody with a scooter rides on the street with the pedestrians.
Perhaps the craziest thing about this is that the loudest noise I heard when I was watching that video was someone braking. This was in Shenzhen, China, by the way, and I cannot wait for our cities here in North America to also go all electric. Giga Texas is being expanded further, and I think it is expected that it will be completed by the end of Q1. Always happy to see some progress here. And I shared some of my long-term plans, a few personal stories, as well as my investing philosophy in this new exclusive video on Patreon. And like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you in tomorrow's episode. Tomorrow's episode is probably going to be quite a bit shorter though.